This is Rudkowski of WeAreChange.org here in upstate New York in Kingston, and I'm joined by the one and only Gary Null. Now, Gary, for the few people who may not know you, could you please introduce yourself?
I'm an advocate of healthy living. We're at a rally right now in New York, in Kingston, for Occupy Peace. And I advocate peace. I advocate a non-war approach. I'm against the war on cancer, against the war on AIDS, against the war on poverty, against the war on drugs, because they don't work. I believe we need an entirely new approach to dealing with cancer, AIDS, drugs, peace around the world. We need people who come with a background, and there are many wise men and women in this world, but they're not in positions of power right now, either in the White House, the Senate, in the House of Representatives, or the Supreme Court. Most people, unfortunately, are corporatized. And when you're corporatized, you don't look at the problem from solutions that help everyone. You look at it, how can you commodify something? How can you commercialize it? How can you profit from it? How can you gain control over a situation? And I'm at a point where I believe we all should look at those who want power. And that's one of our problems in America today, around the world today.
Now, Gary, I spoke with you about 2 years ago, and I asked you, out of everything you studied and researched, the exercises, the supplements, the practices, what is the number one thing you could do to make yourself healthy? And your answer that you gave me stuck with me so much, and it was, after researching and studying everything, it was being happy. And that psychological aspect is so important.
I'd like to add on to that. I believe that you cannot be healthy if you're not happy. The trouble is we try to seek happiness outside of ourselves. We'll look for a person in our lives, the right relationship. We'll look for the right job. We'll look for the right neighborhood. We'll look for the right amount of money to have so we don't feel insecure. We'll look for ways of enhancing our self-esteem from outside. I believe instead that we are all born spiritually perfect. We may not be physically perfect, but spiritually we are. Because you do have people, babies born, preterm babies and birth defects, but a lot of that has to do with environmental contagions or environmental adverse effects by the mother and father. And when you have a perfect spirit, and all life is energy, then as long as we have people in our lives that encourage us to make spiritual decisions, we eat healthy living food. We don't eat dead animals. We respect and honor other people. We don't fear people because they're different ethnicity or sexual orientation or economic background or educational background. We look at them as sacred. Until a person shows they're not sacred by their deeds and actions, assume they are. And so if we come with love of life, honoring each day, it makes a difference in our health. Because we're not always stressed. And stress is a major killer, major cause of illnesses, heart disease, cancer, diabetes. Stress and distress, cortisol, epinephrine, stress hormones play a part in that. So the more you're able to live your life with ease, at ease, then de-stressed, then you're able to flow through life. And you should live your life like Fred Astaire danced. And that's what we need to do. So there shouldn't be any conflict. The conflict is when we're maladaptive, when we've been given the wrong input, and one day we wake up and not, even on our subconscious level, we're making decisions that are not right. They're wrong decisions. That's coming from not knowing when we're young what is truth. We don't know what is truth. We'll learn later what is truth. So we emote, we bring in that energy as an emotion. So now later in life, someone shows, why don't you try veganism? Why don't you try eating nothing with a heartbeat or face? And immediately we repel against that. We say, that's not right. I need my hot dog or hamburger and a steak and bacon. Nutritionally, you don't need it, but emotionally, you may feel you need it. And epigenetically, epi, meaning larger, genetic, our genes, the larger environment of our growing up was, oh yeah, you need meat 3 times a day. So now we feel if we don't have our meat, we're deprived. We're being deprived. And how dare you deprive me of my meat? You're depriving me of my health. And so you don't change. Only 2% of Americans are vegan. 2%. Think of that. After all the books and articles and information and movement. So that's the power of conditioning. Our conditioning becomes our reality. And that's from your subconscious, your maladaptive self. And one day, maybe your parents were insecure, maybe your mother or father was insecure, and they taught you, the world is a terrible place, it's a dangerous place, and so you start to fear being insecure. So you overcompensate, you overmake. Everything you do, you overdo it, you overwork, you overstress, you overpush, and you actually get financially okay, but it's never enough. Think of how many millionaires and billionaires we have. They could be giving back to society, and they don't. They need another yacht, another mansion. They need something more to prove that they're okay. Well, to a person that is empty at the spiritual level, nothing is ever okay. You're never going to feel full. So I believe we must make a quantum step back from the conditioned maladaptive self to the authentic spiritual self. Now, I'm not relating spirit to any particular religion. It is whatever you believe the source of your life is, and the source of all life is. But at least you're making an honest effort to get back to what is essential to you as a human being. Making decisions about what you eat, how you treat people, where you live, what you do, the ability to feel good about yourself, not overcompensating, not over-projecting, the need to have balance in your own life, and that comes from that inner state of homeostasis, a sense of well-being.
Now, just to add to your points, if you do look at the medical records, you do see a large number of heart doctors coming in early Monday morning, Sunday night, because a lot of people do have heart attacks because of that stress right before they do come into work. And I think when it comes to modern medicine, correct me if I'm wrong, I think one of the biggest disconnects, one of the things that's wrong with modern medicine is it never goes into the psychological, mental aspect of somebody. It connects that with the physical aspect with somebody. But obviously, as we know, the body and the mind are one and together. Even if you smile when you're not happy, your brain still releases dopamine just because of your physical movements, and it affects your mental health and your mental well-being as well. How do you see the relationship between mind, body, and spirit, and do you see a disconnect with it when it comes to modern medicine?
Modern medicine is not working for the majority of chronic illnesses. It works beautifully for emergency medicine. If you sever your finger, if you have someone knock out your tooth, if you have a heart attack or a stroke, you want modern medicine because it can save your life. But for chronic care, let's say you have arthritis, you have fibromyalgia, you have depression, you have high blood pressure, you have elevated cholesterol, you have diabetes, modern medicine fails miserably. In fact, it contributes to disease because it has refused to acknowledge natural healing. It refuses to acknowledge the body's ability to rebalance itself. And it's become a political paradigm, an economic paradigm. It becomes an ideological paradigm, and paradigms don't change. Individuals can change within the paradigm, but the paradigm itself is absolutely resistant. So the average doctor becomes a doctor because they truly want to help people. Their motives are noble. Their aspirations are decent, but then they're indoctrinated. In medical school, internship and residency, you're not there to explore all the different ways that you can help in the healing process. You're there to be obedient to paradigms. You don't graduate if you challenge those paradigms. So honoring the paradigm means you're a highly conditioned person who's then going to react to anything that challenges that. So from my perspective, I believe that medicine has to be humanized. You have to bring a humanistic element within medicine, and you have to get the economic incentive out. As long as you have the primary overriding power behind medicine is economy, money, profits, pharmaceutical companies, hospitals, then you're no longer going to have healing as the primary center core, the basis upon which all medicine rests. We should have all doctors aware of all therapies. And we should also distinguish that what we call scientific medicine today is not scientific medicine, because science itself has been co-opted. Much of science today is proprietary. Whoever pays for the scientific research gets to control the outcome. That's wrong. It's just fundamentally wrong. Because it means, as Dr. Angell, former editor-in-chief for 20 plus years of the New England Journal of Medicine, now professor at Harvard, has stated, and others have confirmed, a lot of the peer-reviewed articles are very bad, they're poor. A lot of the studies that have been published in peer-reviewed journals are poorly constructed, therefore their outcomes cannot be relied upon. A lot of medicine is fraudulent. A lot of the doctors and famous people who put their names on articles actually are ghostwriters. They're ghostwritten, meaning a famous professor will have his name on an article, but he never knew a thing about the study. Had nothing to do with it. He was paid thousands of dollars to put their name on an article. And that is wrong. It's simply wrong. You know, and so we can't trust a lot of science today. Independent science still exists. There's some good independent science. Independent science says vaccines have not been proven safe or effective. Official science says vaccines are necessary and should be mandated. Why? It's profitable. You cannot be sued if you damage someone with a vaccine, and the government then subsidizes and is your biggest customer. 70% of all vaccines are bought by the federal government and then the state governments. Well, if you can make 100% profit and nobody could sue you, and you don't have a bad time in court because nobody can take you to court, well, where's the good science then to prove that the vaccine is being given is needed? So our entire medical paradigm, our entire scientific paradigm must change. We must take the profit out of it.
Very, very well said. My last question is, since my last question was what's the best practice you could do, or medicine or exercise you could do for your personal well-being, I want to ask the opposite question. What is the worst thing you could do for your health? Is it smoking? Is it cigarettes? Is it mental problems? Is it stress? What is the number one worst thing someone could do for their own personal health?
The worst thing you could do for your health is the same as the worst thing you could do for your life, because they're completely interconnected. Have the wrong value system. You will be motivated by your values. Your values become your perceptions become your reality, and that becomes your day-to-day deeds, what you actually engage in. Then you become what you do. So if you end up doing the wrong things, you're going to end up with the wrong outcome, and that is the downside of that.